I'm Mariah Russell, and I wanted to start out this presentation with asking you guys a couple questions. So, have you ever walked on a limp? Have you ever walked on a sprained ankle and experienced the pain that follows with it? Well, for a person with a club foot, that pain and that discomfort is a daily struggle throughout our lives. And throughout this presentation, I'm going to be talking about a deformity called a club foot. What is it exactly? And all the types of things that you can do to correct it, and a personal account of somebody with a club foot and their struggles and what they go through in their daily life. So to start off, what is a club foot and are they all the same? Well, a club foot is basically a deformity at birth where your foot is twisted and turned inwards. And it's also known as talipes equinovus. And there's 4 types of a club foot. As you can see, there are talipes varus, talipes valgus, talipes equinus, and then talipes calcaneus. All 4 ranging differently, and as you can see in here, there's 4 different club feet, and they all look differently. Some are like a U, some are with a slight decline or upward, or some are just twisted to their side. Some of them are more severe and some of them are not. All people with a club foot experience the same things no matter on the severity of the case. And so now I want to talk about some of the procedures used to correct the clubfoot deformity and how they were created, who created them, why we still use them today, and why they are so effective. So there's 2 main methods to correcting the deformity. You either have surgery for more severe cases, or there's the Ponseti method, which is basically casting for several months, usually from the first week they are born all the way up to about 3 or 4 months. And through the casting process, the doctor or the doctor of the infant will reposition the foot and then recast it each week and get rid of the cast with a salt bath. And it is not fun for the infant involved or the people having to care for the infant. But most cases, if they are not severe, the Ponseti method will help correct and solve the deformity all on its own so the infant or the child can live a perfectly happy life without any discomfort. Now, for instance, let's say the Ponseti method did not work. In that case, the child or the infant would have to go through corrective surgery, some more complicated than others, and there's not one specific surgery because each case of a clubfoot is drastically different from another case. There's no way of pinpointing one with another and correlating. They're all unique in their own way. Some might have to break the ankle to reposition it. Some might have to move tendons from the calf into the foot and vice versa. You might have to put screws in your foot to allow range of movement. There's all sorts of procedures that are done to help correct the clubfoot. Only when it is too severe to be fixed by the Ponseti method is surgery required. And so, moving on, so I wanted to share you guys with a personal account of somebody with a clubfoot, and that person would be me. I was born with the deformity, and I actually had the most severe stage 5 of the talipes calcaneus, and where that is where your foot is twisted inward and up to your calf. So it's basically a giant U, and I at first started with the Ponseti method, as I stated here, and I tried that all the way up until about 3 months, and that's when my doctors realized this is not working, we need to find a surgery that's going to help solve this. And so from about 4 months old all the way up until 8, I was given 3 complicated surgeries. The first one, breaking my ankle and repositioning it. The second, moving tendons and ligaments from my calf to my foot to allow range of movement. And the third and final surgery was putting in a screw all throughout my big toe to help it stay in place so I could balance. And that's a personal account of what I went through. Not all cases are the same, like I said before. Not all need surgery. Some might just need the Ponseti method, and that's great if it works for them. But like I said, every case is unique in their own way. And so I wanted to go with you guys some of the things I experience and I still experience on a day-to-day life. So some people with the deformity will often have height differences or growth stumps in their leg from their hip to their toes. So that means that some people might have size differences in their legs. For instance, I have 1.25 inches size difference between my right leg and my left leg, which might sound severe, but as long as it's under 2 inches, it does not affect any part of the body, like the skeletal system, the neck, the spine. Oftentimes, with such a big height difference, you become unbalanced, uneven in your skeletal system. Fortunately for me, I am not that severe, thankfully. But another thing I do experience with a stump of growth is my feet. I have 2 different size feet, which is very common for people with the deformity. For instance, my left foot is a size 7 and my right foot is a size 5. It makes shopping difficult, trust me. And then another thing that is common in almost every case, no matter the type, variation of the clubfoot, is swelling. And swelling can happen any point of the day, anytime, no reason. From the point you wake up, middle of the day, to the point you go to bed. It's common. You don't usually have to worry about it. It goes down on its own, but it is a very common thing for people with a clubfoot. Another thing that I have experienced is balancing issues. So for instance, if I balance on my right foot, I just fall over, like, down. And yes, it is very embarrassing when you're in a group of people, but I can balance on my left foot, so it works. And then another thing is pain, and especially when you're first standing in the morning, or if you've been sitting for a long time or laying for a long time, pain is often accompanied with a clubfoot, and it doesn't go away, unfortunately, but that does not stop somebody with the deformity from living a perfectly happy and normal life. Some things that, might hinder us is if your range of motion is not the best, you might not be able to go into the military if that's something you were looking for. Do some sports, go to a dance studio, things like that. It doesn't mean we can't go to a dance studio or do sports. It just means it's a little bit harder for us to do certain things like jumping, running, walking, all sorts of things that involve your foot. But it does not stop somebody with a clubfoot from doing it. Like I said, we can live perfectly happy, healthy lives with the deformity, especially if it's been corrected. But the pain, often, it can be dull, it can be sharp pains. You can just step on your foot wrong, twist your ankle the wrong way, walk on an unbalanced area, and you still get that pain, no matter what variation of the clubfoot. But like I said, some cases are worse than others. So some people might not experience pain, for majority of their life, whereas somebody might wake up every morning with a limp until they really stretch out their tendons and their ligaments and get working with their foot for the day. And that's another thing that somebody with a clubfoot has to do, is they have to do stretches. They have to be careful how they walk and what they do on their foot in order to make sure that they don't hurt themselves. And then I wanted to end with a summary about what I was talking about in my presentation. So for instance, we talked about what is a clubfoot? What is a deformity? What are the variations of a clubfoot? How do they affect somebody in their life? Also, the procedures used to correct the clubfoot. Like I said, either surgical or the Ponseti method. And then, like I said, I gave you a personal account of somebody with a clubfoot, like me or many other people in the world. It's very common in childbirth, and it's one of the most common deformities you can find when it comes to infancy. But anyways, thank you for hearing my speech, and